Today I'm going to bring you some of the most experienced nomads that have so much value to offer. When we got into bus life, there was so much stuff we didn't know and we were learning the hard way. And these are the people that surrounded us and helped us learn. And my goal today is that if you're looking to go tiny, whether that's a van, a bus, or some other rig that you're looking to convert into your home, that you will leave this video feeling more confident in your tiny living. Now, I will warn you that this video took a lot of bunny trails throughout, but if you have the patience to sit down and watch this entire video, I promise you, you will learn a ton. Now, let's get into Tiny Talk. I am so glad you guys are here today, and I'm really excited to dive into these questions. So the first thing that we're going to be discussing in between different vehicles, MCI, school bus, and van, is the cost of building and the cost of buying already built. So we'll start with you, Jonathan. What is your opinion on that topic?
Well, on that topic, I think shuttle buses have historically, I'm in a shuttle bus. A shuttle bus is generally more expensive on the initial cost. School buses typically, years ago at least, were inexpensive for the initial cost, but now that it's become so popular, that price is rising, which kind of offsets what we'll be discussing later. That's pretty much my experience with costs so far on the initial build.
Okay. So I'm going to correct Joel. This is an MCI, but he should be saying coaches, because there's not just one brand, there's a number of different brands. The coach will have a slightly higher initial cost, but the cost of converting is actually much lower because of simplicity of space and everything like that. But as he mentioned, school buses are more and more popular. The price is rising and they're getting pretty much equal.
So we bought yeah, it's like, I'm gonna correct. No, our first bus was bought in 2018. We spent $4,500. It was a Mercedes Pusher, 32 feet, flat-nosed Thomas. We're about to buy our second skoolie. It's a 30-foot, 7-window Thomas with a Mercedes front engine, and it has gotten more expensive. We're going to pay probably $200 to $2,500 more on the bus than we did for a larger bus back in 2018. The vans?
Oh, well, the vans at the time, they're quite a bit more expensive now, but when we bought our van in just November of 2020,
yeah.
yes, we spent 15, and you can't find a van now that's an empty cargo van, which is what we have, for anywhere near 15. It's usually starting around 30 now in 2022.
Vans have gotten very expensive.
Let's talk about the overall price of not just the initial price of buying the vehicle, but the overall build comparing all different vehicles.
I'd say from the first step would be obviously smaller. The smaller vehicles are going to be lesser cost, obviously, than the larger vehicles. As you get to the middle to larger sizes, then now you're talking more apples to apples, perhaps, on cost, I suppose.
Okay.
But if we look at a shuttle like yours, which is about 18 feet of livable space. Yep. We have 40 feet of livable space. In their van, they have 10 feet of livable space. So that's going to affect the build price. But there are certain things that are non-negotiable. So toilets will be the same. Depending on what type of toilet you choose, they'll be the same for every one of them. The flooring, we have 320 square feet. You guys have 10 square feet or 15 square feet or whatever it is of flooring. So that's all proportional. But the price of a build varies dramatically. Not necessarily, well, it varies with size, but it also varies with what do you want.
Yeah.
We used a lot of repurposed materials. We used a lot of grade B materials. And some people will use all new materials. So that really influences the price more than anything else, really.
Yeah.
And some of the larger cost components like solar, I mean, again, in some of the range, some of the initial cost there is about the same regardless of the size of the vehicle. A mid-size to large size with certain expectations of power is the same. So unless you're getting to the smaller rigs where it's a very limited amount of solar and you're going down to real minimalist, that cost is actually pretty much the same or within 25%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our bus, our flat-nosed Thomas, it's about 25 feet of livable space. In the van, it's a 19-foot van, so we have about 10 feet of livable space. We spent more on the van conversion than we did our bus conversion. So you really can't say, you know, an MCI or a shuttle bus or a coach or a skoolie. You can't really dictate which one's going to be more expensive, because it all depends on how you build it out. I mean, if you just 300 buses here, to, you know, vehicles here this weekend. You know, there's so many individual variables. Individual. That's the whiskey talking. Individual variables that you really can't put a price tag on what your build is. How much solar you put into it, whether you've got fiber optics built into it, what kind of wood. You know, are you using OBS or are you using birch? You know, and the price of lumber these days, good Lord, man.
So it depends on what you want. It's a big indicator of what that price will
Now,
look like.
some people call a build, you know, the quick and dirty. Go buy some furniture, slap it in there, throw some magnets on the roof, and
you got a skoolie,
you know,
man.
You got a skoolie.
Right.
You know? And some people, we're doing the full gut. We're deleting all the windows, and you know, we're going in pretty AC.
Right. Yeah. So. You got the whole thing. So.
And I think in the van world, it's automatically more expensive to convert a van, because in the van world, you have a lot of variables like van companies that make aluminum ladders, aluminum decks. They make really high-end components that you want to add to your van, where in the skoolie world, most skoolie people make their own thing. Like they make their own roof rack, or they make their own ladder.
A lot more do-it-yourself for those little add-ons.
And so in our van, we did a lot of DIY coming from a skoolie. So we found a more affordable aluminum ladder, where a lot of people go with the super high-end Aluminess or something, which is totally awesome, but you're spending like $1,000 for a ladder, where we spent like $300 for a equally as nice and lightweight ladder.
We could have spent $700 on a bike rack, just the bike rack. But I was like, no, we're going to get a $60 bike rack from Walmart.com, and we're going to put it on a $300 aluminum ladder, and now we've got a ladder and a bike rack for half the price of what some of these other companies
it just really depends.
Well, and I feel like that's good advice, because if you do your research, there's cheaper ways than what's necessarily going to first show up on your Google search.
For sure.
And there's a lot of school buses with underbelly storage. But you know, if you're wanting a tank in a van, someone will sell you a tank, and like you said, it's going to be a lot more expensive than my 125-gallon tank for a little 10-gallon tank that fits underneath the
27
27
gallons. Come on, man.
Or the the ones that are formed over the wheel well.
Those are automatically more expensive.
That's very true, and we're definitely going to get into that topic of storage and all of that. But before we leave this one, I do want to cover resale values as well. So if we want to start with you again, we'll just go through that.
I've not sold a bus, so I'm going to defer to others.
Well, Ivan sold 3, so let's...
We've sold buses. The resale value is good. You're never going to get out of it what the labor you put in. You might get the materials, you'll never get the labor out. Right now, the market is really, really hot on vans and school buses. So a coach actually has a slightly reduced resale value because of it.
That's fair.
But also your cost of entry is a lot lower now because they're not as popular.
Yeah, true.
Well, I guess I will add a little bit. So that's a good point on these buses, even though I would say that these have a higher value, like ultimately. I mean, done right, all things equal. But because the skoolie is the trend, I have seen absolute terrible trash builds that look really good on Instagram, sell for ungodly amounts of money, and they wind up spending even more money to get all that patched up. That's absolutely a fact, because it's trending, because people want to live that life, and they know that they're not capable of doing it themselves, so they think they're going to get into it and be good, and it's...
Well, and since you mentioned that, I'd say it's worth telling them that before you jump on it and buy a skoolie that's already built, make sure you have somebody experienced to check it, because you might be getting a trash build.
True, absolutely.
Great
guys,
advice.
so many people call themselves skoolie converters, skoolie builders. They have no license. They're not bonded. You know, they're no different than us who've done it ourselves, and they're like, hell, I can take a $5,000 bus, put 15 grand into it, and then sell it for 60. Cha-ching, right?
But
most people are doing that.
But most of them popping up haven't even lived in a skoolie like we have for enough time to be like, oh.
They don't know how to build them properly.
Safely.
So we sold our bus. We sold our Thomas November of 2020. We made a profit on the parts. Jonathan said you can't bill for labor when you do it yourself. Or did you say that, Ivan?
We both concur.
Oh, they both.
Ivan and Jonathan says you can't bill your labor, which is true. You know, you God, you're always building your bus. You know?
Well, I think
So,
yeah.
but for parts, I think it's average to say it's safe to say double what you put into it is what you could probably sell it for on the market today. So if you put in 20-25 grand into a build after the purchase of the bus, buses are going easily from anywhere from 40 to probably 70 grand.
Gotcha.
Depending on the build, depending on, you know, there's a buyer for everybody. So
Well, and we sold our bus with no solar at all
none.
for 45.
Right.
But what we wanted from it was to be able to go buy a van
Yep.
and build it out with that income. So we were able to do that because the van price was so low, but we probably spent the same amount or more building out the van, but that we could sell the van for more
Yeah, vans.
automatically because it's a van.
Some vans are going for over 6 figures.
This is crazy.
We happen to be selling our van right now for well under 6 figures. So
And they
yes.
are, and it's a quality build.
Yes. Yes. So
Well,
if
we
you're looking
learned.
for a van, definitely check out their listing. We'll put it in the bio.
It'll be sold by the time this is on YouTube.
I'm sure it
All
will.
right, I'm going to
But-
hold you to that.
Yeah. One other thing though, for cost of build, and we mentioned pre-built vans, and some people are slightly sketchy. Also, check out the mechanicals, because a lot of people they buy a bus, they drive it home, but they've never driven a bus before, so they don't know what it's supposed to drive like.
It's good.
Then they get it, they park it there for a year and a half, because your 6-month build is going to take you longer than 6 months. Trust me.
Three times
At least
as
3
long
times,
as you
yeah.
think
So
it's going to take.
yeah, your 6-month build doesn't exist. Now there are people that say they built the bus in 6 months. They made it livable in 6 months.
Yep.
There's still a long way to go. That being said, what's happening with all of this, make sure your mechanicals are worth building on before you actually start
Absolutely.
building the
Good
bus.
advice. That's good advice.
Or the van, or the shuttle, or the coach, or whatever.
And if you're planning on making it nice, make it so nice that should you ever lose an engine, you are happy to swap that engine out.
Sure.
Even though the
Yeah.
cost sucks, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we have friends right now, they're stuck in British Columbia with a blown engine, and the least expensive one they can find is $20,000. Yeah, a C7 Cat
Man.
in a school bus. So,
Wow.
That's horrible.
So if
Yeah.
you have a C7 Cat, get in touch with Ivan. or
No.
Silvia.
no, you want it bulletproof. There's a kit for bulletproofing them, like the 6-liter Ford or like the Duramax or whatever. So,
Yeah.
Or avoid the C7.
yeah.
All right, so the next question kind of relates to what we were just talking about, and that is comparing the cost of maintenance and tires with different, vehicles of converting. So we'll start with you again.
I can
Jonathan.
start on this one. One of the benefits of something like a shuttle, it is more common tires. So the tires are the smaller ones. It's more common. In my case, I love discount tire. I can pay for tires, and basically they're covered for the next 60,000 miles, no matter what, and they're all over. That's a pretty awesome pro. It's also based on a cutaway van. So like in a Ford, like the E-Series van. So the mechanical stuff for that's like pretty awesome in that it's available everywhere, common mechanics. However, mechanics in the shuttle is also often terrible because the engine is shoehorned into that thing, and it's kind of awful in a lot of ways, actually. But all the parts are common. People know how to work on them. You don't need specialty. The steering components, all that stuff is pretty common and reasonably affordable. That's probably all I can comment on.
Well, and
as
also
for shuttles.
there are some shuttle buses that are built on like an F350 frame,
Right.
which then makes service even easier.
Right, yeah.
They're not as common.
Some of them are like the full dog nose. You mean?
Yeah.
Right. The full dog nose are just like the trucks.
Like a
basically.
pickup truck.
Yeah.
Front
So
end.
what we call a dog nose in the schoolie world.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a Mercedes Sprinter van, and the common, what do you call it, misnomer
Yeah.
is that
stereotype.
is that a Mercedes Sprinter is going to be
Ooh, so expensive.
a lot more expensive to maintain. And so we haven't really found that to be the case, although we just had some warranty work done on it. which was quite expensive. The overall maintenance is less than the other vehicles, so if you had a Dodge van or a Ford van, you're going to be maintaining more often than if you're maintaining the Sprinter. As long as
Statistics show
yeah,
they're in the shop
statistically,
more often than
yes.
the Mercedes is.
So it kind of evens out as far as that goes.
Good.
And then the tires are going to vary just depending on what kind of tires you get. I mean, they're just regular tires, or you can get the off-road tires,
You want
which
to
are
get
more expensive.
all-terrain tires are going to be more expensive, you know.
Yeah.
But we haven't found that our van has been any more expensive than we anticipated.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But when you transition from a van or a shuttle bus to something with, you know, the mid-size big boy engines, now the you know, maintenance, say 10,000 mile oil changes, it's going to be quite a bit more,
oh, absolutely.
just
Yeah,
because
true.
of engine size. But that's not really more maintenance; it's just higher cost because of the size.
I changed the oil in the van. It was like $50-$60. I did it myself. You do that in a skoolie, plan on spending $100-$150
Yep.
because it's going to take us twice as much oil. The oil you can, but you should never change your oil without changing your air filters. Air filter in a skoolie is going to run you probably $50-$60 because it's a big old canister,
Right.
you know, air filter. And it's just going to take a lot more oil. And it also has 2 oil filters, typically.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you do happen to break down on the side of the road, then a tow
Oh,
for skoolie,
touche.
you know, just plan on $1,000.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're going 10 miles or 100 miles.
Yeah,
just
plan on
at
$1,000.
least plan on $1,000. at
So you'll be
least.
happy when it's only 8.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Truly.
Right, it's like, sweet, I saved $200.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be paying for a big engine diesel mechanic
Yeah.
labor, which is probably going to run you anywhere from $100 to $200 an hour.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
So
Oh, and in that vein, same thing with tires. So on a vehicle like, you know, I could put a jack on mine, but unless you have on a shuttle bus something smaller, but a school bus, you're getting into big boy tools and big boy hydraulic jacks. And most time you're not traveling with a spare, so that's roadside service, which is also fee.
Yep. So that's
Well-
a whole nother animal.
Let me break a few myths here. So, no, first of all, the tires, yes, they're a lot more expensive. We paid $300 each or $350 each for the tires that we have in our bus. They're going to last us at least 150,000 miles. So, compared to your shuttle bus tires that last you 70,000 miles.
Correct.
So, there's that. Changing the tire, we have all the tools we need with us to change a tire. Am I going to change a tire? No, I'm going to call roadside service. But we have a thing called CoachNet that will come out and tow our bus, fix our bus, or change a tire for us. And it's $250 a year. It's great insurance to have. Make sure you have it. And if you're in a skoolie, make sure that the company, if you're dealing with AAA, Good Sam, etc., make sure that they will actually tow or repair or work on your bus.
Yep.
As far as maintenance costs, the coach being, you know, the big boy of the group, actually the maintenance costs are quite low. I have at home an F-250 pickup truck. It cost me less to do the brakes on this MCI than it did on my 1995 F-250 pickup truck. The parts are common. Now, not all coaches have very common parts. MCI, GMC, they're very common. If you get into a Setra, a Van Hool, or a Prévost, then some of the parts can be a little more expensive. But the MCI, the GMC, they didn't try to reinvent the world. What they do is they use common off-the-shelf truck parts. So our suspension underneath is the same as a Freightliner, is the same as a Mack truck. And the brakes, etc., etc. So it's very simple. It's very easy to work on. And as far as the engine goes, your
7.3.
yeah, so your shuttle has a 7.3. My F-250 pickup truck has a 7.3. My F-250 pickup truck weighs 6,000 pounds. Your shuttle weighs
12 and a half.
right. And some school buses have the same engine as well, dragging around 30,000 pounds. So that engine is working really hard. The engine that we have in a coach, it's a 12.7 liter Detroit in this case, but they're the same engines that you'll find in transport trucks dragging 80,000 pounds around. So this engine really isn't working. We can go down the road at 75 miles an hour. The engine is barely breaking a sweat. We actually have a load gauge that tells us load, and 75 miles an hour is about a 30% load on the engine. So not a big influence. Whereas some school buses, that engine is crying, it's yelling, "Get me out of here!" So the maintenance costs, some things will be a little higher, some things will be a little lower. But one of the things I'd like to stress is maintain your vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
A maintenance is a lot less expensive than any repair will ever be.
Yep.
So if you maintain it properly from day one and do preventative maintenance, every bus company in the world, and we'll use the case of a van, you have UPS that uses the sprinters, you've got Amazon using sprinters. They have a maintenance schedule that they follow. Follow the same maintenance schedule as a school bus
That's good
operation if
advice.
you have a skoolie, as a coach operation if you have a coach, as a large delivery service if you have a van. Follow those maintenance schedules and you probably will never have a breakdown.
Yep.
Along
good
that
advice.
note, buy your schoolie. If you're going to buy a schoolie, if you're looking to buy a school bus, buy it from a school district directly if you can. Never, ever, ever buy a school bus from a church. They are never maintained. They just
Valid.
aren't.
Yes.
Yep.
School districts,
Very good
they
advice.
have to maintain them.
Right.
And they do a pretty darn good job of it.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So,
And like you said, the church buses, their maintenance is praying, which but no,
Their maintenance is low budget, and from someone in the church probably that's wants to be helpful, but
Not
may not be a
qualified.
competent mechanic.
right.
That's good. Yeah.
Oftentimes.
Very true.
And anything that's carrying paying passengers, so a coach, a school bus, they have to be maintained to a certain level. And if you can buy it that the kids walked out of the bus and you walk in and drive away, or the people walked out of the coach and you drive away with it, that's the best thing you can do. And be careful with tires, because you may look at the bus and it'll have tires that are within the proper date code, 7 years, but when you go to pick it up again, all of a sudden the tires aren't the same anymore.
Right.
That's
Yep.
happened to a lot of
They'll-
people.
they'll swap
That's
them out.
good.
And it's worth if you're looking at two buses, all things equal, pick the one with better tires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or ask them if they could swap them out, which
Swap
is what
them
we
out.
did.
That's a
what we did.
$3,000 ordeal to get new
Yeah.
tires, something around there.
Yeah.
That's good. And while we're talking about this, when we bought our bus, I looked at the trend and I'm like, oh, these tires are great. Well, I met Yvan and you said these things are dry rot. We found out they were from '98 originally from the time, age of the bus. So, make sure you know how to check tires as well and make sure that they're in good condition as well.
And
So,
there's a thing called retreads, which we didn't even know about until we bought our schoolie. And you can learn how to identify retreads to see if the retread is in good shape. Basically, they slapped more rubber on the tire and made it a better tread.
Yep.
yeah.
If it's in good shape or not, there's ways to tell if it's cracking or peeling away from the seam or whatever.
The retreads are never as good as virgin tires, but retreads these days, they're okay. I mean, I'd prefer brand new virgin tires.
Sure.
But if it's a good retread on a school bus in a school district, I mean, the way I see it, if they're safe enough to haul kids around, they're probably okay.
That's
And
true.
nobody ever puts retreads on the front axle.
True. I think it's illegal.
It is,
To
but
put
I've seen
tread on
retreads on
steer
front
tires.
axles, so please do
So
not.
watch out for that. That's
Yeah.
good.
So
That's
speaking
true.
of tires, is that a good time to go into drivability of these vehicles?
Ooh, that's
Good
good.
segue,
Let's just
Justin.
go ahead and go into that.
Yeah.
I'll start
Right.
with you.
Well, now I have experience driving shuttle buses, and I've driven a couple school buses now. And man, all things equal, the school buses, I mean, they feel a little better to me, honestly. And I've done the suspension and everything in my shuttle bus, but I kind of like it. Mine has air ride, so maybe that's a factor.
Sure.
But my school bus has a nice ride to it. I like it. It feels a little more flowy.
Okay.
But it's not as flowy as
The coach, yeah.
A coach.
So-
Very true.
The coach, by all means, has the best ride, and for a reason. People are paying money to sit in this. Kids are forced to sit in the school bus. And as kids, I remember, riding a school bus, and as a kid, we wanted to sit at the back, so when you went over the railroad tracks, you bounced up higher. That doesn't happen in a coach. But the ease of driving is actually great with a coach. You have excellent visibility. There's no blind spots because the mirrors are actually in front of the coach. They're the leading thing on the coach are the mirrors. So you have no blind spots whatsoever. In our case, it's a 45-foot coach. The rear axle turns. So it turns tighter than our old 40-foot coach. And it turns tighter, it doesn't turn tighter, but it seems to turn tighter than my F-250. It's just very easy to drive. And if you're afraid of driving a coach or a school bus or something like that, then the van, the shuttle bus work in well. But give it a try first. Don't be scared. They're actually very easy to drive, and all of them for that matter.
Yeah, truly on the highway. I mean, you've got rear engine, you've got the engine's in the back, you're gliding, you can actually go full speed. A lot of the school buses, you're gonna cruise at like 55, and it's pretty loud, and it's kind of like, you don't really love it. His is, you're rocking at 75, and it's just cruising. It's a Cadillac. It's a Cadillac.
So you've driven the bus and you've driven the van. Your thoughts?
Right, so I think it depends on the bus, first of all.
Sure.
So we had a flat
Flat
nose pusher, and I test drove it one time and I didn't enjoy it at all, so and it made me nervous. The seat was in front of the wheel.
It's a
the
whole
front
new.
wheels,
It's a whole new
so it was like
sensation.
I was, in
Oh,
a
right.
disc or
Experience.
turning a disc or something. But I was nervous to drive that, and so I was really excited when we got the van because it's just like driving a
It's
vehicle,
a car.
and I can drive
It's
it
a
no
car.
problem.
Driving the van is honestly it's a dream.
Yeah.
That's I mean we
sure.
love traveling. We've been to like I don't know 20 something states in the van since July, over 10,000 miles, and it's just like it's easy. It's just really easy.
Yep.
Driving the bus. I remember the first time I tried eating while driving the bus. I thought I was gonna die. I really did. So driving the bus for me. So, and I've driven trucks before, like U-Haul, big 27-foot trucks before. But driving the bus, it was always road, gauges, mirror, for the 5 hours I'm driving, it's like road, gauges, mirror.
Yep.
It was just very stressful.
Yeah.
For her, I think it was even more stressful
It was.
because she was behind me most of the time, and when you're driving a diesel pusher, I don't know if it's like that with the front end engines, but the back has a sway to it that you don't feel while you're driving, and so I'm cruising, I'm just going down the highway, and then I'll get a call. On the phone, she'll like, "Are you okay? What happened? Why'd you run off the road?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Are you on your phone? Are you Facebooking? What are you doing?" And because she's stressing out. So
Well, because he's feeling the bus kind of go like this, I'm seeing
It's
the
no big
rear end
deal.
go like this.
Right.
So I'm in the.
It does have some sway.
Well,
is-
and I
yeah.
and I suppose the length of the bus is a big a big difference
Sure.
here too, because when you're going in a straight line, they're kind of all the same. I mean, kind of. Once you're going in a straight line, interstate, cool. But as far as parking, going through towns, it's a whole different scenario. When you've got a 36 plus foot bus,
Right.
37 foot bus, you're making different decisions
Yes.
completely.
Absolutely.
I've got a 29 foot bumper to bumper, so a mid-size Freightliner, and I literally don't even think about it. And those things turn crazy sharp, like sharper than my shuttle bus for sure. But sharp enough here that a bunch of people that decide to lock it are pushing themselves sideways into the sand to get stuck. But truly, 30 foot, 32 foot, or if you have basically anything under 32 foot, basically you can park into 2 parking spaces, and that's really easy. Just like with my shuttle, I have to do 2 with my shuttle, which is 28 foot after the 3 foot extension, so 25 and 3, 28.
Actually, you can go up to 40 feet in 2 parking spots. So our previous bus was 40 feet, and it would be at the end of both lines, front to back.
Yeah, I would say mine's 37, and I've parked in 2 spots.
You can
Sometimes
do
it'll
it,
be
but you're not
close,
fit.
but
Yeah, you're not actually fitting. I think the actual measurements. I think
you might be
is
breaking the rules a little, but it works.
Yeah, no, we're good. And the disadvantage of this is just that parking. Other than that, maneuverability isn't that much of a concern for us. We've been on the road, 6 years. We had a 40-foot bus before. Now we have a 45, and we don't think about it anymore. We're not worried about gas stations, things like that. It's just parking itself. So let's say we want to go to Walmart. Well, we don't need to park close to anything else. The other thing is that we have as a big disadvantage is weight.
Yeah.
42,000 pounds. I've driven through rain. I've driven on snow. I've driven on ice. Not a concern. I come to Florida, I drive on sand, and I get stuck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
and
that's fair. Yeah.
It just literally sunk in.
And I think that, along the lines, people go by skoolies, they don't they're thinking, oh, I'll just pull a toad. They've never pulled a toad or a car or a truck behind them. And so when we were deciding what to do, we decided we didn't want to pull a vehicle and make the bus even longer. So that left it to where I had to drive. We didn't plan all that out very well. So think about, because you're picking up a school bus and then you're driving it to your place and then you're going to DIY build it or whatever, or you're dropping it off to a builder. You're not actually driving it with a tow. So you don't even know if you're going to like that or do that very well. And we discovered after a year that we hated driving the bus that way and being separate, traveling and all of that. So those are things you want to think about prior and maybe even see if you can do that with a friend or something to even see if that's even something you're going to undertake, because if you're not, then you're going to want to go with a shorter vehicle that you can pull a tow behind and be comfortable, or a shorter vehicle that'll just go in all the parking spots, like a van will.
So that's also connected to the off-road ability, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sprinter vans, the vans you can get them in 4x4. So that's a pro if that's your ambition.
Yeah.
If you're going to be cruising pretty much primarily on highways and interstates, all this stuff, like this is where it's at.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Well, one thing we do have that this is a misconception in the whole industry. We actually have more ground clearance than most of the school buses here.
Say for the fulcrum of between the tires.
Right, but we have 11 inches as the basic. So there's some 40-foot school buses that have like 6 inches of ground clearance when they have the storage bays below them. And at the press of a button, I can put it up to 15 inches. So that fulcrum effect goes away.
Right, and that's good to know because if you walk by one park, usually they're sitting really low and people don't realize you can raise that right up.
But still, because of the weight, because of the length, So if you're going to do the off-road thing, probably the mid-size skoolie's probably a pretty good option.
Yeah, or the van.
Or the van if you're really going hardcore.
Real quick, I'm going to go right down the line. Shuttle bus gas mileage.
About 12.
12.
2003 E450. 7.3, 185,000 miles, pretty well maintained, everything's up to speed, and I've seen 12 even pulling a trailer.
Okay, coach.
7, 6.5, 7.
Okay.
1.1 million miles, 12.7 liter Detroit diesel. We have reports of people getting up to 10, but honestly, I don't think they know how to calculate.
All right.
30, I'll do the skoolie. 32-foot, flat-nose diesel pusher, Mercedes. Way probably overweight than what it should be. We empty 10 to 12 miles per gallon. When we were completed, maybe 8 miles per gallon.
Okay.
Maybe.
And that lines up with mine. Mine's, a little under the maximum weight, but it gets about 9.
Right.
So.
Mercedes van.
Yeah, so we have a 2014 Mercedes cargo van that we converted.
2.1, 4-cylinder.
Right. And we average 19 to 22 miles per gallon.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
And
Obviously, that's a lot better. So.
And that's keeping it right around 65 miles per hour.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I didn't say. That's also me keeping mine at, I pretty much don't go above 60. It's like a 2 mile per hour difference, which doesn't sound like much, except that that's 20%. So it's costly when I get beyond 2,000 RPMs, which is right around the 55 mark.
Yeah.
And for us, that's 75 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Literally cruising down.
Yeah. The bus, before we had the cruise control fixed, was actually difficult to drive below 75 miles an hour.
Now, is that with you driving or your
No.
butler driving for you?
That was with Silvia driving.
Oh, okay.
And along those
No, I'm
lines,
not saying.
Yeah.
along those lines, a lot of school buses are governed, and so
That's
they
true.
can't go any faster. Where a coach or a van or a shuttle, you are probably limitless on how fast you can go with like the 100 or 110 or whatever
And bonus note, if that is the case, there are, I think it's after 04, something after 04, 05, the Allison transmissions, they'll have 5-speed, but then the sixth gear is locked, and you can get that program unlocked, so now you can stay under that 2,000 RPM
Gotcha.
mark.
That's going to drop you. Yeah, it'll drop you about 2,000 RPMs.
Right.
So
Now
you'll
you
go
can-
from 2,000, 2,100
Right.
to about 18.
Right.
19.
And at a higher speed,
And at a higher speed.
So,
That being the case, you do have to get permission legally from Thomas to unlock that 6th gear. Most reputable mechanics will not touch it unless you
Without
have
the
a letter. Unless you have a letter from Thomas
That's
saying
good to know. I
they
didn't
give
know
you
that.
permission to unlock that 6th gear.
Okay.
We know people that'll do it under the table. but if you just want to stay on board,
Yeah.
And I will say, contacting Thomas in High Point, North Carolina, they are a great company to work with. We've
Good.
contacted them before. You call them up, you ask for their parts department or their service department,
Okay.
and we got them to email us for free the wiring, the chassis wiring harness, the bus wiring harness. They'll give you a manual. They're really, it's a really good company to work with. So
Gotcha.
getting that letter for the 6th gear, if you let them know what your intent is, it really shouldn't be an issue.
Good.
Shouldn't
I
be a
was just
problem.
getting ready to ask you that. What's the process of doing that? But what if it's like a Bluebird? It's the same thing. You just call the closest
We don't do
one.
Bluebird. We just do Thomas. So I don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know the
Yeah.
answer.
I would imagine.
yeah,
I think
hope so.
Bluebird's in. I think it's in Indiana.
Okay.
But just contact Google Bluebird.
Yeah.
Contact their
They
main
can get you
headquarters.
that slip
Let
or
them know
something.
what
Okay.
what you got going on, and I'm sure they're just as easy as Thomas to work with.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the same with the coach companies. We have 24-hour tech service. They have all that, irregardless of the age of the coach.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and before we close this chapter, I just want to mention how, like, the largest vehicle I'd driven before buying my bus was a 15-passenger van, and I hopped in that thing the day I bought it. Never driven a school bus before, and I did just fine. However, I will say it was very uncomfortable because when you've never driven that big of a
Sure,
vehicle, it's a whole new world. But don't let that discomfort stop you from getting used to it.
Yep.
You do have to be on much more high alert. Like, I can relax my car, eat or whatever, because if somebody cuts me off, I
Drive
can
with
slam my
your knee.
brakes. But like in a bus, you can't stop as fast. So I got to be way more on alert, I feel like, and it kind of is a little tiring for me to drive my bus versus like a car or a van. So something I feel like they should keep in mind. for
Yeah,
travel.
and the other aspect of that is a lot of buses, the larger buses, have air brakes. Learn how to do a DOT pre-check, learn how to adjust your
good.
brakes, and learn how to use the air brakes because they're very reliable, they're very safe. Obviously, they're carrying our kids all over the world and paying passengers, but they need a little bit of attention.
That's good advice. All right, so the next question is living space and comparing the different rigs. I know you guys have done the switcheroo, and a lot of people have made the mistake before of buying a bus and then, I don't need this much, so they go to a van or vice versa. So tell us your experience with that.
Do you want to? You want me to?
Well, I sum it up really quickly by saying we absolutely loved living in the school bus.
Yes.
The living space inside was perfect. We had a
25
32.
feet. It's like it was
Yeah.
around like over almost 300 square feet.
We had a king size bed in
220.
the back. We had a 100-gallon water tank. It was very comfortable to live in. We could seat 9 people inside the schoolie at once
Yep.
for visiting and hanging out, entertainment.
Big old 43-inch TV, 7-foot counter,
7-foot couch.
bathroom, shower. It was sweet.
And
We even had a
yet,
doggy deck.
Right.
But the van, so we hated traveling in the bus. We loved living in it. The van, we love traveling in it. Absolutely love it. I wish we could just keep doing that. We don't like living in it at all. It's like 80 square feet, but it's really, you're not even really living in 80 square feet because you're sleeping and you're cooking, but the little aisle that you have
We
is
can't-
probably like 21 inches.
Yeah, we can't pass each other in the aisle without getting excited.
So really, like the
Yeah, it's
outdoors
like-
becomes your
it's-
living space in a
Right,
way.
which is what we said. Oh, we're gonna live outside anyways.
And that's great when it's not freezing or it's raining. When
Yeah.
it's raining or freezing, you're stuck inside and you're literally like, what do you want to do? What do you want?
and you have
know?
pets, right?
Well, we're like
But
this.
yeah, we have 2 dogs now.
And they have 2
So-
dogs.
We're sitting this close,
Right.
on our couch that is 4 feet, and we're like, hi,
Hi.
hey.
How you doing?
There's no other really entertainment area except going outside.
So
Right.
PG-13 warning here, but go make love instead.
Yeah, you make the bed up, you Netflix and or you
Yeah,
What-
Netflix
what-
You
and
do
chill.
Tetris,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do Twister.
Prime time,
all the
Amazon
things,
Prime
you
time
know.
and Nest time.
Yeah.
You know?
But we're with the coach world, we have a lot more space, and some people actually want slide outs on these things. No, please don't go there. Slide outs are, we want buses for safety. We want buses for comfort. We want buses for reliability. Don't put something that's putting a big hole in the side of your house that moves, doesn't always move when it should, and leaks. But anyways, as far as comfort, we envy some people with vans when we see them in certain areas, but then we walk into our bathroom, our kitchen counter is longer than their van.
It's true.
Yeah. So
I feel very inadequate right now.
no, but hey, and all of us are full time,
Yeah.
which we have to say, part timing. I would love a van,
Yeah, true.
but
that's
full
good.
timing, we came from a 2,500 square foot house down to a 320 square foot bus, and we don't feel inadequate. We don't feel crowded. We don't, we can walk by each other in the counter in the kitchen and be mad at each other and not get excited like they do, which sometimes it would be good, but nonetheless, it's not something. We have more space
You have more square footage in your bathroom in this
than you
we
have in
do
your
our
van.
Yeah, more floor
exactly.
space.
Right. So that's sort of an advantage, can be a disadvantage. A lot of people in the skoolie world especially will raise the roof. And that's something I've seen, like your bus, you can't touch the ceiling without a ladder.
Right. Yeah.
But when you need
He's
to
only
heat
5'2", but
yeah.
Whatever.
but when you need to heat and cool that additional space,
Yeah.
why do you have that much space?
Oh yeah, it's very true.
Right.
Yep.
So our last bus had it was the regular coach height. This one has a bit of a roof raise, but not anywhere near what a lot of schoolies are doing. Our first bus, I could walk in the center and not hit my head, which was great. But I had to duck in certain areas. This one I don't have to duck. It has a bit of a roof raise.
And how
that's-
tall are you?
I'm 6 foot.
Okay.
But you need to be comfortable in your space. And it doesn't matter whether you have 320 or 80 square feet if you're comfortable in it. And one thing is there's two of you living in the bus or in
The
the van. There's two of us living in the van. A single person would be a lot more comfortable in a van than a couple.
That's true. That's very good.
64.9. It's available right now. Contact Don.
Hey,
and
the
that-
sign says 64.5.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But yes, a single person would be very comfortable in our van, and we have to collapse the bed, pull it out every day. That's not a really big
Takes
deal.
3 minutes.
Yeah, it takes
it's
3
no big
minutes.
But it's 3
It's
minutes
just-
that you probably have avoided many times.
Very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so in your case, so you've gone from full-size bus to the short bus
Oh, to the van.
to the van,
deal. Right.
and now you're going
We're going back to a
to
bus.
the mid-size
Yeah.
bus.
Yeah,
mid-size.
but we're going back to a bus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is more in line with what I've got going on, which is a shuttle bus.
Right.
And you can expound here in just a minute on the difference there. So I've got a shuttle bus. It's 16 feet livable from behind the driver's seat to the rear, but it has the width of something like this, just about, I think, right?
Close.
90
close.
inches.
Yeah,
A little
like
bigger
90
than a
inches.
school bus, right?
Right, more like the school bus. So the front of it's like the van, but then right behind you've got the shell, and you wind up with a higher ceilings. I don't know if it's higher than yours, maybe a little bit, but
So the bus that we're looking at is right at 78 inches.
okay.
Or 77
So
inches.
I have mine built out. I have like 76 or 78 inches in the shuttle. So it is kind of a good middle ground. 25-foot bumper to bumper from the factory. It's wide. It's got not school bus windows, and it's got the extra height. And two people can rock that thing comfortably. And when you stop, it's like nice to sit there and enjoy yourself in there versus feeling like you have to get out.
Yeah. And if you're a couple that requires personal space on occasion, something like that might be a little tight. What they have is definitely tight. A coach, I can be sleeping in the back or working because it's my office,
Yeah.
and Silvia can be baking cookies up front,
Right.
and I don't hear her, and vice versa. So
Yeah.
there are advantages to size, there are disadvantages, but it's really what does it come down for you? Now, we mentioned shuttle buses, vans, coaches, school buses, and you followed us this long, thank you. But we also know there are box trucks, there are delivery
Yes.
trucks, there are trailers, there's tiny homes, there's all sorts of different nomadic
SUVs
vehicles.
with rooftop
Yeah.
canvas campers.
Yep.
Right,
You know?
so
Overland.
there's a lot of
Overland,
different
yeah.
nomadic vehicles, and we're sorry we didn't purposely exclude you here. We just couldn't find anybody to debate
Yeah.
with us on those merits. But we know you're out there, and like I said, if you followed this long, you probably put the comment in the bottom, oh, you forgot the box truck.
What
We
about-
didn't forget the box truck. It's just, we didn't have enough chairs, for one.
Dale was not in the right frame of mind to join us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have invited him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, actually, there's no LVLs here this weekend. or LLVs, sorry, long life vehicles, which are, you know, the Grumans, things like that. I haven't seen one here yet.
Is
So,
that an American thing? I
don't even know what that is.
so an LLV, a Grumman, a UPS truck.
Oh,
Okay.
Step van.
Yeah,
Call that
step van, sorry. But
Yeah.
you know, in the industry they call them LLVs, long life vehicles, because they do have an extremely long life.
I thought you said long leg.
There is an ambulance.
Oh,
just down here.
yeah, and we've
There's
got
an
ambulances
ambulance.
too.
That's what he
So
Ambulances, really?
Yeah.
It's an ambulance right
now
down here.
most ambulances unfortunately have one really big shortcoming. They're short.
Gotcha.
They got oxygen.
You're on a little gurney going in.
They're well built, but you can't stand up.
They're
Or
heavy.
there's some ambulances you can't stand up in.
Well, and before we close this chapter out, Rachel and I definitely tested out our tiny living before buying our bus by living in an RV temporarily. And you know, when you've lived in a house, you don't really know what kind of space will work for you. So it's definitely good to test out before you put all that time and effort and money into buying a tiny home. I feel like but that's good advice on, you know, maybe them.
Otherwise, you're going to buy a
figuring that
bus
out.
and then a van and then a bus again.
Yeah, we'll do the switching it around constantly. So, all right, the next question is kind of complicated. You know, do you keep your bus windows? Do you put in RV windows? How much solar do you need for AC? Thermal, just all that kind of stuff. Jonathan, what do you think people should know about that topic?
Well, I guess I'd say from a shuttle bus, skoolie. Skoolies have a metal shell, so school bus is a metal shell. You've got to do quite a bit more just to reduce the thermal bridging, which is when the sun's hitting the metal shell, that's getting hot and that's wanting to transfer to the inside. If you do it properly, you can reduce that a lot, but you still need to kind of get rid of the windows because that's one of the weakest spots in a bus. So I would imagine there's only so much insulation you could add that at some point doesn't matter if you have all the factory windows.
Gotcha.
In something like this and something like a shuttle bus, they have better windows from the factory. Now they're larger in the shuttle buses, but they are sealed. They typically don't leak, and they don't fall open as you drive, which is a feature of skoolies for sure.
Yeah.
That is true. They're
So-
kind of known for that.
So, you know, step one, delete all the windows you can, especially if you're following the weather, you're doing the quick and dirty build, then do your thing, rock it, keep the windows down. But if you want to drive and it sound a little bit better in a skoolie, or in my shuttle bus, I wiped out half the windows in an area that wasn't needed. And that increases your thermal efficiency should you choose to do solar and be fully off grid and comfortable. You want to put a mini split in, power it from solar.
Yeah.
All of those things are decreasing the cost of what it's going to take in terms of power, which
Right.
is batteries, solar.
Well, and also comment on location as well, because you've been around a lot. So
Sure.
I'm sure that plays a big part.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to comment a little bit more on this, but a lot of us are trying to follow the weather, I suppose. So we're doing like 2 and 3 season buses. When you get to the Great White North, it's a whole different animal. I'm from Florida. I really can't comment on what it takes to make a school bus 4 season capable, really. I
Well,
haven't been there yet.
Yeah, to make any bus 4-season capable, whether it be a bus, a van, a shuttle, one term you have to learn is thermal bridging, and eliminate as much thermal bridging as you possibly can. Windows, like you mentioned, are the worst thermal bridges we could ever have. Glass is great at transmitting heat and cold. So try to get double pane glass. Now for us, we have double pane glass everywhere except for the windshield, because legally that's not, you can't do double pane glass on the windshield. Every other window on this bus is double pane, and that makes a huge difference, not only in thermal efficiency, but audio efficiency. It's very quiet inside our bus.
Oh, right.
We can go anywhere and not hear necessarily what's going around us. The other thing is the thermal mass that we have is good and bad at the same time. So temperature regulation, like you mentioned, we're all over the place. We're sitting in beautiful Florida right now. It's comfortable. Next week we'll be in Iowa in a snowstorm. So we require that thermal efficiency to make our bus livable for us.
Yeah.
Someone like you mentioned that's, following 70, which is a common practice, following 70 degrees, they don't necessarily need it.
Right.
We need a lot of heating, we need a lot of cooling to be able to do that. And insulation is the best investment you'll ever make in converting your vehicle.
Yep.
You can put off the live edge countertop to later. You just put a sheet of plywood down. You can put off a lot of things. Do not put off quality windows, quality insulation.
Yep,
Okay.
I would say Yeah, on the installation, maybe, I'm guessing arbitrary numbers, but maybe 20, 30, 40% of people build their first bus and they don't address insulation. It's probably 98% of people, when they build their second bus, insulation is where it's at.
Yep.
That said, fiberglass shell on shuttle bus is one of the, it's a pro and a con. A metal shell is nice, a little more reliable long term, I'd say, less torsion, less flex. But in a shuttle bus with the fiberglass shell, you've already eliminated most of the thermal bridging coming in.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Can you comment more on what you do for insulation? Because I know you got a really good system down for that.
Yeah, so we've designed a system, so to speak, to eliminate as much thermal bridging as we can. And for insulation, first of all, we have spray foam. And before you go off the rocker, spray foam that was available 20 years ago and spray foam that's available today are two completely different animals. Off-gassing after 30 minutes doesn't exist anymore with spray foam, with a properly applied spray foam. So get it professionally applied. The do-it-yourself kits, they're using the 20-year-old technology, so yeah, you could get off-gassing there. The other aspect of that is if you're using a bat type insulation, be it rock wool, be it Havelock wool, be it sheep's wool or fiberglass, there's always that thermal, there's always that air that's going through them. So when that cold or hot air touches the cold or hot exterior metal, you're going to get condensation. Whereas with the spray foam, it's never getting there because the spray foam is adhering to everything. Another thing that spray foam does, and Jonathan touched on it, is it actually helps with the structural integrity. So his shuttle that moves a little bit, and by the way, these move just as much. It's a misconception that they're a solid tube. They have torsion. Lift up one corner, you'll see how much torsion you have. That being said, with that extra torsion, that spray foam is going to help with that. From there, we put a 1/4 inch sheet of plywood screwed to the ribs of the bus, metal ribs. After that, we put on an 1/8 inch of Ceratex or EHP roll board. They're compatible products. It's basically a ceramic insulation that's 1/8 of an inch thick. Then we put another 1/4 inch over top of that of plywood, not screwed to the first one, not screwed to the ribs, but screwed to the first sheet. So then we eliminate thermal bridging 100%.
That's good. That's good.
An insulation sandwich.
Yeah.
Insulation.
Interesting. So for our school bus, we did spray foam insulation. So we had 2 inches of spray foam.
Professionally done.
Professionally done.
Okay.
Then for the walls and the ceiling to eliminate the thermal bridge, we did fairing strips. So 2x2 pieces of wood screwed into the metal ribs.
Okay.
So the ceiling then screwed into the wood, not the metal. So you don't have
Condensation on the screws.
exactly.
Yeah.
You can do that. One, it's going to create a thermal bridge, but
Yep.
then you're also going to have the heat, the temperature of the exterior of the bus is going to transfer to the inside through that screw.
Yep.
And if you've got a mini split like we had, it's a cool 73, 74 degrees inside, 98 degrees outside. That screw is going to sweat.
Yep.
And you're going to get a water ring around your cedar seal,
Story
So-
of my life.
Yeah, so that's going to happen.
That mistake
And
was definitely made in my
so we did the
bus.
same thing with the walls. We did furring strips along the ribs,
Yeah.
and then the wood screwed into the furring strips to eliminate the thermal bridge.
Yeah.
Our schoolie, so we built our bus in Satellite Beach, Florida, which is
Okay.
down in Central Florida, beachside, hot as hell. We finished. It took us a long time because we were working full time. But when we left Florida we left that area in 2019, December 2019. We started living in the bus without a mini split yet. We just had 2 max air fans and then the schoolie windows.
Yeah.
It was doable. It got warm,
Until March.
but it got doable. So and then come March, we installed the mini split. With the mini set in Florida, with the way we insulated our bus, dude, we were sitting happy. We were fine.
Yep.
We took our bus up to Wisconsin. It started to get cold. We were fine with a little electric heater. Then we took our bus out to Colorado and up in the Rocky Mountains and in the San Juan Valley. It's like 12, 18 inches of snow on a regular basis. We were still warm in the bus.
Wow.
Now the floor got a little cold.
Yeah.
Because we only had an inch of stiff foam board on the
Gotcha.
floor, but we were fine inside our bus, and and there's 18 inches of snow on the outside of the bus. So we did okay with it. So we are definitely we're definitely all all in for the spray foam. Now, what I will say about the windows, if you get a good ceramic tint on your windows, and you get if you make some inserts, and we can offline, we can explain how to make window inserts.
You can see them on YouTube.
With YouTube. But with thermal curtains, honestly, the school bus windows they were not a factor for us.
Okay.
Yes, they are a thermal suck, for energy.
Yeah.
But if you put a good tint on them, a good quality tint on them, and you have some inserts.
The tint does nothing in the winter for cold.
No, it does nothing for the cold. But the inserts and the thermal curtains, they do hold in quite a bit of heat.
Okay.
So don't think you have to eliminate all your school bus windows. Having that 360-degree view is one of the reasons why we wanted to keep our windows. We like the views.
Yeah.
So we're
Except with the inserts and the curtains, you don't have that 360 view.
at that point, you can always open them and peek out. You know? So, but
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Did
all
you
that
ever,
to say,
did you ever do any maintenance on the school bus windows? Because I've heard a lot of people getting leaks and stuff.
we got lucky. We didn't have any leaks.
Okay.
So, but what we did though afterwards, we went with a 5-in-1 tool. We pulled out the old dry caulk and then we resealed it with some
So that's
caulk
probably why you
adhesive.
did it, because you prepared
Well,
there.
no, so we didn't have any leaks beforehand. So
Yeah.
we picked up our bus right in the middle of Hurricane Florence.
Okay.
When it hit North Carolina. We demoed our bus right in the middle of Hurricane Florence and drove back to Florida. And then we washed it, sprayed it down. No leaks. We got lucky. That's not the norm for a school bus.
Yeah.
That's 10 plus years old.
Well, I do a 2-hour drive, and I got like 6 windows dropping down on mine.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
You gotta keep that. That happens.
It's
And-
very common in schoolies for your
Yeah.
windows
Yeah.
to drop. So
Yeah.
I mean, the
that's
20-year-old
an issue.
vehicles, like we know this going in.
Yeah.
Am I gonna remove those and put a different school bus window in? Nah.
Right.
And one little known fact, most school buses, the first row or second row are double pane windows. So if you can get more of those and put them in from a scrapyard, then you'll have double pane windows all the way down, and that's going to help as well.
Yeah.
Heard that.
Now in the van we did something a little bit different. So
Yeah, so the van, a lot of van lifers, and it's a whole different community than schoolies. I mean, schoolies say we're in van life, but van lifers don't say we're in schoolie life.
Yeah, it's very
It's
true.
a whole different community in van life, and in the van life community,
we're
everyone
going
swears by
schoolie.
Havelock wool. So we went the Havelock wool route, and when we got it, we realized we didn't have enough because we did overkill with everything we ever build or do.
Always.
And so we probably put more in than they want you to, but we felt like it needed more. And so at that point, we decided to go with friends of ours were building out a van right next to us, and they went with the ISO
foam board.
the foam board.
Polyiso.
Polyiso foam board.
Gotcha.
So we kind of did a combination along with kill mat, which is really more of a noise thing. We did the kill mat first, then the board, and then we did the parameter of the boards with the Havelock, so there was like a lot less, gaps and air. But all that being said, we did 3 inches in the roof, and we did about 2.5 on the walls.
Yep.
And our van is black. The roof is covered with solar, and there's more heat coming in the windows. That's the main culprit,
Sure
is
is.
the windows.
Yeah.
And we have two large picture windows, and during the day we usually keep the one that's behind the couch covered with the reflective material that we
Okay.
made. So, and the other one we leave open for seeing.
Yeah.
But
views
all
and
that to
stuff.
say, so no external air conditioner in our van.
Right.
We have one max air fan. We have flares that we installed in the van that's got sliding screened windows, kind of like RV
Okay.
windows.
Yeah.
So with the max air fan on exhaust
Yeah.
and those windows open,
Here-
honestly,
creates that
we
airflow.
sleep like even here, we get chilly. We sleep with down comforters, even here in Florida.
Yeah.
So we don't get
In
warm
February.
at all.
Yeah.
And-
Let's
and
be
well,
real.
yeah,
Let's be
yeah,
real.
Yeah,
July
we're not-
might be another
we're
story.
not
But
doing
it's
this
still
in
hot as
July
hell
in
down
Florida.
here
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, it is.
It
That's
was
very
really
true.
warm today.
I want to bring up again what you mentioned about putting the thermal tint on your bus windows.
Yeah.
Now that's not just for bus windows. I mean, I think you do it on yours too.
Yeah,
And,
so it's an IR reflecting, so infrared reflecting ceramic tint.
Okay. Yeah, and that's necessary for pretty much all windows. Will make a huge difference in
It makes
keeping that
such
heat
a
out.
big difference.
And it's IR reflective film. It's not tint. So you can get it tinted, but you can also get a 100% clear version.
That's good. So if your windows are tinted, that doesn't mean they're insulated like that.
No,
Yeah.
no, definitely.
Another note, Reflectix is not an insulator, according to the people who make Reflectix.
Right.
So doing your whole bus in Reflectix and closing it behind a wall is not going to work. So don't make that mistake. It's very expensive, and you'll be tearing out the walls wondering why you don't have insulation.
Yeah,
It's because it's not an insulator.
That's
It's
good.
got to have an air gap, and it's used for attics and stuff. But by the time you do that air gap, you could have put actual insulation in there for lesser cost and actually have insulation.
Good point.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
if you want something soft that's pliable, like in a window covering, you want to do something like 3M Thinsulate, which is a lot more expensive, but you could sew it into material, and it is truly
Yeah.
It's
an
an insulator.
insulation.
Yeah.
We have a friend that actually does that with quilt padding,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
does great success with it.
Yeah. All right, while we're kind of on this topic, I want to shift more towards AC because I know many people want to have that comfortable AC. And Jonathan, with you doing solar and stuff, can you kind of explain how much solar it takes to be able to run an AC unit in the different rigs, or at least
Sure.
ones that you're familiar with?
Well, the variables here are all the things we were just talking about, insulation.
Yeah.
Basically, in a van, you're probably not going to do it. It takes up a lot of space. And I don't know what the solution is for that. Insulate well, turn on the engine at nighttime, get
Drive
it nice
to where
and
it's
chilly in
colder.
there,
Yeah.
close it,
Follow the
and,
weather.
Yeah, and follow the weather.
Yeah,
It's a lot
just be
easier to
smarter
follow the
where you
weather.
travel.
Yeah.
At
Shuttle
20
buses.
At 22 miles per gallon, you can go anywhere you want
Yeah,
to.
that's true. Yeah.
Shuttle buses, they oftentimes don't have space underneath as much, so that's more difficult. I had to do an extension on the back to put on a mini split.
Okay.
And then oftentimes people don't even run them from solar, but at least you have the option to park at a place and plug
Gotcha.
in. With something like this, there's usually plenty of room underneath. With school buses, there's plenty of room underneath for the mini splits. And then you get into powering it. Again, that gets really complex based on insulation and all of that, but it can be done. It doesn't take as much as you would think to do it, as long as you do it right and build a system properly. But you're not going to run full-time solar powered air conditioning with anything except for a mini split. And it's like rooftop unit, not going to happen. You can't do it. There's not enough room on any of these to run one of those sustainably, and that's the word, sustainably, because it'll wipe out a $10,000 battery bank overnight. That's just what it does. So mini split, and you're looking at 1,500 watts or more from at minimum.
Yeah.
1,500 watts to make it sustainable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely maintain that.
So our previous bus had a mini split. It had 1,300 watts of solar and maybe 15,000 watt hours of battery. That was enough, barely. This bus, we have 4,100 watts of solar and 21,000 watt hours of battery. Not a problem. We can run a mini split all day long, no issue. If we had a rooftop air conditioner, screw it. It's not going to work.
Game over.
Yeah, and we're also hyper insulated. So we've done as much as we can in terms of insulation from the floor on up. You know, a lot of people don't insulate their floor. Our floor is as well insulated as anything else because we deal as, unfortunately, as much with cold as we do with heat. And insulating, if you're going to be dealing with cold, insulate your floor, please. You'll feel the difference. And we also have a heated floor. But definitely solar, a lot of people think solar is expensive if you're living in it full time. And if you're a weekender, no. If you're living in it full time like we are and traveling full time, we do about 50,000 miles a year and we're in all sorts of different climates, that mini split is a godsend. And having as much solar as you can afford, again, it's necessary. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Yeah.
We have a generator in our bus that, you know, after a year and a half is 49 hours on it. So we don't use the generator, we don't plug in, everything runs off solar, including the AC, including the heat, and we're good with it. And if you're having someone design a solar system for you, make sure that they designed in the capacity to grow it. A lot of people make the mistake of not being able to grow their system, and then they're stuck with that small, we'll say, starter system, and that is just a problem.
Yep. The kits are very limited. You get what you get, and you want to add to it later. You're buying a bunch of components.
We were talking to somebody yesterday. They bought a kit. They wanted to add another panel.
Yep.
That's going to throw them into a whole different charge controller.
Yep.
And then it just kind of
it's a
domino
cascade effect.
Yeah,
A
it's
a
holistic
domino
approach
effect.
to solar.
So-
And all that said, the holistic approach is you think about what you're going to spend on solar. Well, it may be that $2,000 extra investment on the installation side could save you $8,000 in batteries in solar.
Yeah.
So you've got to think about all these things. And people who are building skoolies, the new skoolie builders popping out, they don't know these things. They're going to be putting arbitrary amounts of solar. They don't have the experience to know what it takes. So
Right.
unless you've been doing this, that knowledge is hard to come by.
Yeah.
So we did a mini split on our bus.
Okay.
Our first bus, 0 solar. We didn't have any house batteries. We had shore hookup and we had a generator because we were naive enough to listen to someone to give us bad advice.
Well,
Well, good advice in the RV world.
fair,
Bad
yeah,
advice.
to be fair, it
Exactly,
was
for-
RV advice.
for boondocking. So
RV advice.
so we're in Arapahoe County in the Rocky Mountains,
In October.
and we're running a generator
Not
to
planning
run a
on
mini
snow.
split.
Yeah.
It worked great as long as you got gas to run the generator.
Right.
You know, you run out of gas, you run out of power.
Right.
Period. So boondocking, running a mini split, have
Yeah.
solar. It's okay to rely on a generator. Just plan on carrying around, 30, 40 gallons of gasoline to run the generator,
Yeah.
or a big old propane tank if you've got it converted to propane. So,
Right.
And
So
if you go to a properly designed solar system, you really don't have to have the 3,500 watt generator anymore because you're offsetting just what your solar. Well, you're offsetting when the sun's not out, so you don't have to have the 3,500 watts available all at once. You can drop in a little 2,000 watt little handheld, and it'll top your batteries off, run all your needs, and it's
Yeah.
an awesome supplement now.
Yeah.
Rather than having to have the
supplement.
capacity.
That's
Yeah.
the key
Yeah, it's
word.
a supplement.
Supplement.
Yeah.
For us, our
Yes.
generator, we found we got the smallest RV generator or diesel generator we could find, which is 5,500 watts. We've never used all that it can put out, and we use it to power our block heater because inverters don't like induction type power draws, and also when our panels have a foot of snow on them, they don't generate much electricity.
Yeah, it's Achilles heel of solar. is-
That's where the generator comes
That's
from.
when you
not
send Silvia out to get on the roof, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
For us, I know a lot of schoolie people have rooftop decks. We draw straws to see who has to go up on the roof. We both don't like heights, so yeah.
Tell me more about this snow.
It's white stuff,
Okay.
sort of like the sand, but a little lighter.
Okay.
We got a
And
lot
it
in-
falls
we
from
got
the
a lot in
sky.
Miami.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of this.
yeah.
We got a lot of snow in Miami, baby.
No, not the Cuban snow.
Oh.
Or Colombian snow, sorry.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So I feel like
So-
you guys, go ahead.
I was just going to say along those lines, when you're saying, you're going to chase the 70s, but you go through Colorado in October and you're going to go over a mountain pass, be prepared for a blizzard, and you're probably going to be maybe stranded in Colorado for 2 months like we were, where the snow comes up, and you have outdoor water tank and your PEX plumbing is outdoor
Yeah.
and your pipes are frozen now.
Your gray
you
tank
can't do-
freezes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your plan is
So-
staying 70.
So your
Right.
plan is to stay at
Yeah.
70, but you want to be prepared for things like that. You're thinking you're not going to see snow in Colorado because it's October.
You're
Yeah.
gonna see snow.
You're thinking your engine's not going to blow in the middle of Kansas somewhere.
Yeah.
At least if you have solar, like now you've got a really nice place to live with unlimited power
Right.
while
Exactly.
you're waiting on help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And AC,
Catch
it's
up
kind
on
of
your
nice.
Game of Thrones. All 6 seasons, all 8 seasons, whatever.
No, stop
Crap.
at 6.
Well, I think you guys really gave some great advice on AC and solar and that kind of thing. I do want to clarify a few things that I feel like people need to know because everybody gets afraid of doing their solar. If you're gonna hire somebody else out to do solar, I feel like you all would probably agree with me that you want to check with other clients that have hired them before,
Oh,
make
yeah,
sure they know what they're doing because they possibly could not, and then that's usually how bus fires start and
Sure.
that sort of thing. So definitely check with their previous clients.
Any work you have done on a schoolie, any schoolie builders,
Yeah.
which we're highly critical of, make sure that, look, they're all going to sound, well, most of them are going to sound really great and convincing. They're going to tell you that they've got history in doing all this and they've built houses and yachts and whatever. But go get a list of clients they've worked for, get their phone numbers, give them a call, Do
Yep.
anything and everything. Make sure they have, I mean, social media, not everyone's on there. Some of the good ones are too busy to do that, but make sure there's a bunch of references
Yeah.
and see how they feel about it. If they're the Instagram people that make buses that look great on Instagram, but they're built poorly,
Yeah.
go and talk to the people who bought their buses, and they need to be vocal about how awesome it was.
Yeah,
and ask the questions.
And not just bought it 2 months ago, bought it 2
Right.
years ago.
Really.
Because-
Word of mouth travels fast.
It does.
Yeah, it does,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, not everybody listens to that word of mouth, and they still hire these idiots.
Well, and not everyone who gets burned will share about it.
Right.
That's
Because
very true.
especially if they've lost $10,000, $20,000 or life savings for this dream that they want to take their family on, and they got
Well,
shafted.
And another thing is, I know a lot of people wait to do solar last after they've installed
No,
their
no, no, no.
fantastic fan
Yeah.
and they've done their chimney, and so they need to keep in mind, right, that they need to know how many panels they want up there before
Sure.
they start putting other stuff through the roof.
Well, also, back like I said, insulation. $2,000 of insulation could save you $8,000 of batteries and solar.
Right.
In the same way, making proper decisions about the components you select, the devices you're going to run,
Yeah.
can save you same thing in solar. So it's not, I'm going to put everything in my bus that I want to run and then add on solar, because as it turns out, there's limited roof space. You're only going
Right.
to get so much solar on there.
Yeah, so
And-
solar is something you want to think of early
Yep.
and
Right.
not wait till last.
And-
It should be one. It really should be one of the first applications you do on your project.
Yeah.
It really should.
And the solar has a peculiar little thing. Panels are cheap.
Yep.
Panels actually provide shade to your roof, keeping it cooler inside.
Sure.
So if you can cover your roof with solar panels, do so.
Yep.
And plan on it. So if you have a racking system built, build it the full length of the bus, even though you're not putting on full length of bus solar panels. Eventually you'll get there.
Yeah.
Residential panels, larger, fewer panels, it's better in every way. We can
Yeah.
go down the technical
And the
reasons.
higher voltages as
Higher
well.
voltage, they're easier to mount, they're less cost, they're half the cost per watt than 100 watt panels that you find on Amazon that are designed to be easy to ship.
Yeah,
Good.
exactly.
Try to find them
Good
locally,
advice.
you'll save tons of money.
And you can buy B grade panels. Our bus is covered in B grade panels.
Yep.
And B grade panels, there's A, B, and C. So A grade are perfect in every way. B grade, they're cosmetically damaged, but they're functionally perfect.
Yep.
And then C grade, they're cosmetically damaged and mechanically damaged.
Choose your own adventure on the C grade.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Gotcha.
But B grade, if you can find them, they're not everywhere. But if you can find them, they're a safe option.
I've had zero issues with B grade. I used a lot of those early on.
Yeah.
And I tell people when I do consults all over, like, find them locally. They want to buy from me.
No.
I'm like, it's not worth me shipping. It's cost more money. Don't buy online and have it shipped if you can find it locally. And I have them send me Facebook links to
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace, and I'll say thumbs up. If it's 3 hours, go get 6 panels, call it a day.
And
Yeah.
also, panels are always evolving. So right now on my roof, I've got panels that are 390 watts. On our previous bus, we had the same size panel that were 310 watts. And a year after I put these on, now the same size panel is 440, 477 inch.
They're getting there, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
solar's always getting
efficiency.
better.
It's efficiency. Sometimes you do that with the B grade panels. Say 80 by 40 can be 400 watts, or it can be 320 watts.
Yeah.
And they kind of said, we'll call this one a 320 because it didn't quite meet specs.
Yeah.
When it should be a 400.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
That took me a long time to learn and figure that one out.
Yeah.
I had to ask a lot of people before I found someone who knew.
Yeah, and I might get some hate comments on this part, but I think we all can agree here, and especially you've done so many solar installs. Renogy is not the best route to go. I know they're good at marketing, but they're
Yeah.
very pricey, and a lot of times you've seen a lot of their parts fail. So
It's true.
Yeah.
It is the most common brand out there, so you'd statistically see more failures, but I replace a lot of Renogy parts.
and we're just trying to give
And
these people
Ames.
the best data to build out their
Absolutely.
rig. And so if any of you guys don't agree with that, feel free to comment. But I've heard that a lot, and so I just
Yep.
wanted to throw that out there and see if any of you guys agreed, disagreed, because
Yep.
I know I've heard about Renogy a ton.
Right.
They're very good at marketing, but I've not seen their
Sure.
performance play out in mass.
Yeah, the pro and con about cheap parts is that they're cheap.
Yeah.
So we've
both
got
ways.
Renogy
Okay.
panels. We've got Renogy batteries.
Okay.
I thought 2 of our 100 watts are Renogy's.
Maybe.
So we've got 2 100 watt Renogy panels, Renogy batteries, and a Renogy battery monitor.
Okay.
That being said, our next solar array will be all Victron components,
Big time.
and some form of lithium battery.
Okay.
Probably Battleborn, but I'm not sold with
Gotcha.
Battleborn right
There's a
now.
lot of great options out there.
Right.
Yeah. So while we're on this topic, I want to make sure we talk about batteries, because people are always trying to decide, do I put the money into lithium? Do I get lead acid, AGM? So what advice do you guys have on that?
Go lithium first day. Lead acid will give you a quick, easy start, but you're going to be replacing them many, many times before you go through one Life Pro battery or Life PO4 battery. The lithium iron phosphate batteries are by far the least expensive in the long term. Lead acid,
Good.
in the short term, by far the least expensive, but you're going to be replacing them many times. Also with lead acid, you have the problem of venting. You can't put them in your house.
Shouldn't.
Yeah, you should. Well,
Shouldn't.
Yeah.
They need to be
It's not
vented,
smart.
yes.
not in the house, not in
Right,
the box
yeah.
where you're living.
AGMs, they actually do vent. So again, they shouldn't be in your living space. AGMs and lead acid are very heavy, and in some vehicles that's not as much of a concern. In something like a van, weight is definitely a concern. So that's another aspect. The other aspect of the lithium iron phosphate batteries though is they don't like being cold. So they have to be in your living space with you to work properly.
If you're cold, they're cold.
Yeah, if you're cold, they're cold. And if it's below freezing, they're not working. They give up.
Yep.
They'll come back. It won't damage them, but they will do there. And there are a lot of different qualities of lithium iron phosphate batteries. There are some really good ones, and there are some really dangerous ones.
Yeah.
Segue.
So I do a lot of installs. I use a ton of Battleborn batteries. A lot of people just want to have the best. They want to have a company that's going to be behind them. And Battleborn has lived up to that. That said, if I'm talking to someone and I'm trying to convince them to what they need for solar, the one place I kind of recommend saving some money if you want to go and do some more budget, the more budget approach, I say get LifePo, but find some of the other solutions on Amazon that are highly rated, that have a company that's been around for a while. Now, that's a place you can save a lot of money and get the same value essentially, but you're still getting into lithium. Lithium, and when we say lithium right now, it's not lithium ion, that was less stable. The lithium iron phosphate LifePo is what we're referring to.
Gotcha.
It charges substantially faster than the other batteries, which means for the same amount of solar and the same duration of sun, you're getting more power into your system. That's a big difference that people are not talking about a whole lot. I want to get some
That's
data.
good.
I actually want to do some testing on that to really quantify that, but that's a big deal. The cycle life, you're looking at 3 years, full cycles, you're looking at 3 years. If you do everything perfectly with the AGMs or lead acid, perhaps.
1 year.
Yeah, well,
For us, we're getting 1 year because in a year they go through 365 charge cycles because we live in it full time, and they were dying off every day. So,
well, according to the specs for manufacturers, which may or may not be true, it should give you about 3 years, but experience is saying otherwise, and that's also been my experience with other people who are wiping them out the first year.
yeah,
Hard to know because sometimes they're doing things they shouldn't do. With lithium, the lowest ones are like 3,000 cycles that they rate them at, and that's 12 years. At which point, they claim, none of us
still
have
at
used them for
80%.
12 years, they're still at 70-80% of their original capacity. Great investment.
Yeah.
As he said, cold weather. The Battleborns have a low temperature cutoff. That means that at, I think it's 24 degrees, they will limit how much power goes in and out. And then at some point, if it's too cold, they're going to say, no thanks, you can't hurt me. Some of the lesser cost LifePo batteries, that's the one feature they actually don't have. So you have to control that yourself.
with
Right.
a BMS.
That's really
which,
important to know.
Well, they have
Yeah.
a BMS, but with a separate low temperature cutoff. They also have heated pads that you can put under there that are pretty efficient. But that's one of those things for that you have to consider. For clients who are like, we don't want to think about it, I'm like, or they're going to be in cold weather frequently, I'm like, probably just go with Battleborn if you want to not worry about it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you guys have anything to say on batteries?
No, we have AGMs right now. Suffice it to say, we'll be going with lithium phosphate, iron phosphates for our next build.
Yeah.
It's stressful as hell when you see your batteries get down to like 79%.
Yeah.
When the magic number on AGMs is 50%.
Yeah.
Lithiums, they say 0%, but really you should be about 20%.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
when you don't want it to get below 20%.
Gotcha.
But with the AGMs 50%, then you start to damage your batteries.
Yeah.
We've had us for about a year,
Okay.
and they're still going very well. We've been full time. We cycle. We get down to about 83% at night.
Yeah.
That's with our max fan running, our what are they called?
Fiber optics.
Fiber optics lights running, and 2 other fans.
Okay.
So because it's hot, we just got a lot of circulation going on.
Yeah.
So, but then, by noon and a good sunny day, we're back up to 100%,
Okay.
13 and a half,
Yeah.
volts.
Yeah.
So, but it's not, for us, it's not worth the stress
Yeah.
of watching our battery monitor.
Yeah, you just want to be able to not
And-
think about it.
Exactly.
and-
So
yeah.
we're just gonna do
Well,
it.
that's real. Battery anxiety is a thing in this community,
It is,
and
man,
people
it is.
come to me and they're freaking out looking at their battery monitor, which isn't usually right because it's Renogy, and they're stressing all the time. And eventually, I get a system in there, and I'm checking in on them for the first little while. Then, next thing you know, they're not helpful to me anymore because they're like, we don't look at our power anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how you want to live in a bus.
That's how you want to live in the bus.
Because
Yeah.
you don't want to be stressed. It should be as easy as get in, drive, maintain, but stress should not be part of this living.
Yes, absolutely. And I know we're losing daylight, so we got to wrap this up. But real quick, last thing I want to mention is if you absolutely cannot afford lithium, do you go AGM or do you go lead acid?
In my opinion, I would try to get some sealed lead acid. I think sealed lead acid, you don't have to
SLA,
add
yeah.
water.
Right, yeah.
Right. So I haven't really delved into that, but I would go big or go little. Do a pile of the sealed lead acid, put them under the bus, and load them up. Do it big, do it right, and call it a day. The AGM in the middle is kind of, you're going to wind up getting here eventually. So do
Gotcha.
the quick and dirty, or go big.
AGMs
good.
are still expensive.
They are.
I mean,
That's what
you pay $400 for AGM
Well,
200 amp hour batteries.
Yeah.
You're going to pay $400, and then
Every 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Or less.
right.
Right.
Or less. So
Okay, so go big or go low, pretty much is what
And
I'm
really, by the time
Yeah.
you buy 2 AGMs, I mean, it's not a linear cost difference, but on the low side, 200 amp hour AGMs is getting real close to one
To a
lithium battle. Yeah, a Battleborn.
Yeah.
And really,
Wow.
you should have a low voltage cutoff, which is like 80 to 100 bucks, so you don't damage it. And then I'm like, what are we talking about? Lithium.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to close off for today. We got through about a third of the questions, so we'll definitely have to do a part 2 or part 3 sometime. But I hope this information was helpful to you guys, and we'll definitely see you in the next one.